So we haven't been able to figure out if our policies and reactions to this have been any better than anywhere else in the country. We're sort of middling, like Virginia tends to in a lot of these situations, I think.
Yeah. Well, maybe here's the one place I would say we might actually be a little better in that. When you look at that map, I think Johns Hopkins has this sort of map of the virus. And what you see is that in the beginning months, when you take a look at where the epicenter was nationally, Northern Virginia and the DC area, the sort of the Delmarva area there, it was really the southern tip of the East Coast epicenter. That when you looked at the map, that's where we were in terms of Northern Virginia. So things, I think, could have been a lot worse in terms of deaths and whatever. But I think I would give the governor some credit there for his cautionary position. Probably was helpful in ensuring that Northern Virginia didn't go the way of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut in that way, where we could have, given the fact that our case numbers were quite high there.
Yeah, I'm not trying to insinuate in any way that the governor or the Commonwealth itself did anything wrong or better. I'm just trying to understand how did we do relative to, I guess, peer states, and I guess we have to look at this geographically because, frankly, we're not Wyoming and the Dakotas. We were on the East Coast mix there, and sort of the late blooms that have happened down in the southern tier states. We're obviously in the middle of all that. So I guess the questions that come to people's mind are, where are we relative to this uptick or spike, if you will, and is it calming down, or has it peaked?
Well, that's such a good question because it depends where you are in the state, I think, and that's what makes it so interesting. Northern Virginia, which is our far and away our most populous part of the state, is looking really pretty good right now. Even today, I looked at the numbers. I think there was maybe 140 cases in the core Northern Virginia communities. It's not knocked out, but the numbers are down. So if they can stay down, we'll be okay, and we'll miss that spike that we're seeing further south. At the same time, you look at Hampton Roads, you look at some parts of Southwest Virginia. I got an email that was very interesting the other day from a healthcare provider in Washington County, right outside of Abington, and on near Bristol and on the border there, and they told me the numbers there, while they're going up, are actually much higher because some of most of the people in Washington County go to hospitals in Tennessee. They go to Bristol or they go to Johnson City, Tennessee, and the situation there has actually gotten worse. So in some places we're getting worse, but in our biggest population area, we're getting much better, and that has enabled us, I think, to avoid the spike that we're seeing in South Carolina, Georgia, and the like. And in fact, our population is far larger than South Carolina, and we probably have half the cases today that they had yesterday. So,
yeah, and talking with folks who live along the beach in South Carolina, most of the residents are very upset because of the people who have come into South Carolina beaches for vacation are not from South Carolina. They're bringing it from the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, and that's where they're seeing their blooms from. So the residents are kind of ticked off about this. And I guess what has me wondering is, has the Northern Virginia behaviors changed to the point at which they've gotten control of it? And then the rest of the state, which was frankly rural and socially distant anyway, is now going, oh gosh, when it comes here, it's going to spike up. We got to wear masks, be socially distant. So this is the learning curve of the protection of initial social distancing that has occurred outside the regions.
Yeah, it's interesting that you remark about that of South Carolina, because in the Roanoke area, the stories in the local papers tend to be the reverse. They're saying that what's happened is that people in Southwest Virginia went down to Myrtle Beach over the last few weeks, and they've brought it back from South Carolina.
Right.
And that is the big complaint right now in the Roanoke area and further southwest, is what's happened for people in that area who vacationed in South Carolina and have returned it. And that again is a little different than what we saw previously. What we saw previously, for example, in a lot of the rural areas, was that it hit Latino communities very hard, who are working in greenhouses and agricultural meat packing plants and the like. And now we're seeing this sort of element about vacationing. Right. And my presumption is that some people in Virginia Beach would tell you that's part of the reason as well. People coming from elsewhere to vacation at the beach.
Right, and this is where, because the tourism hospitality industry got smacked hard early on this thing, and when people found out this thing was going down, things were getting better, they're like, oh, it's okay to go on vacation now. And then they realized they got there and they're going, oh my gosh, everyone's coming from everywhere else, and they were sharing this thing rather than staying home and staycationing. That's just the behaviors. We saw that. And this is how this thing transmitted in the first place. People left China, and they went to Europe, they went to the United States, and this thing bloomed all over the world.